Look.
Oh yeah,
They-
this one said.
they've made every single.
They're so loud
What
that
the
you can
fuck?
hear them coming from like miles away.
Oh,
They've made
It's just fired like an IR. It's fired like IR. Joking.
probably for right now. It's not even working. What's going on, guys? Steele here, and as you see, they had a little sneak peek of the 1.101, as they're calling the update, dev server. And as you can see, they've added quite a few things, like a S.U.M.E.R BKL, which at the moment doesn't have its loadouts changed. Obviously, it's work in progress. Really hoping it gets our 60s when it comes to the live, but who knows. The T72 1989, the T72 B3 with a upgrade package that brings it to the 2000s level of VISION package and technology. A few other things like the Q5 Nanchang, or Fantan as I know it from Battlefield 4, and I would assume others recognize it from there as well. And obviously the biggest thing that I'm kind of hyped for is Sparrow missiles, beyond visual range radar missiles. Now, Sparrows are semi-active, which means that they need to be guided to the target and the whole entire way with a consistent radar lock. They're not active radar, which actively, after you fire them, you can basically forget about it and they'll switch on their own little radar and guide themselves to the target. So in this video, I just want to kind of just talk about and rant about some things about the coming update that I think will happen, or things that are gonna inevitably happen. So this is just gonna be a little bit of a off the cuff, just rant kind of video. Not anger rant, obviously, but you get the idea. Just kind of rambling on. So I've been seeing a lot of videos, a lot of reactions to this change. Video that comes to mind is Spitfire's video that he just released a couple hours ago, I think, and he is excited, and as he said, that Missile Thunder is in full swing now, which I fully agree with. One thing that's not really a rebuttal or a refute, but it's going to be a but type statement. As everyone knows from playing top tier jets, there's maps like Malta, which these missiles are never going to be viable on. You're probably going to have to switch to a different loadout. I don't know why you probably wouldn't want to take radar missiles that weigh you down on a map like that. The biggest maps that I can think of is alternate history Spain and Afghanistan. Gaijin, when it comes to their map design, this might not work for radar missiles, because as a lot of other YouTubers are saying, is climbing to high altitude is not going to be viable. And I think this is only going to not be viable in terms of the maps that we currently have. Now, I'm not saying there has to be, because the AIM-7E Sparrow, which is the Sparrow that's on the Phantom, has about 30 kilometers range. Not saying that we need a map that's 60 kilometers, so you have to fly an extra 30 kilometers before you can even get into radar range, because obviously that might completely destroy some aircraft that won't have radar guided missiles, which I'm pretty sure the Draken is going to fall in that department. So as you can see, what I have on in the background here is some footage from my Suez Crisis mission that I made. I've actually been updating it. Like you can see, I've added jet bombers and stuff, and after this clip, you'll actually see me working on it even more. I'm extending the runways to take into account radar-guided missiles. I've also added 2 attacker spawns, but I'm pretty sure when it comes to the dev server, if I'll be able to play, because depending on when they release it, if they release it early, really early this week, because today is Saturday as I'm recording this, if they release this in the beginning of the week for a first dev server and I can get access to it, like if it's an open dev server, I know that, I'm pretty certain that custom missions will work on the dev server. So I would like to test this on the dev server, and if I can, hopefully everything will go well and the radar missiles will function, because after that, if there's not another dev server, I'm going to be getting my eye surgery done, for those of you that know about that. this Friday, I believe it is coming Friday. I think it's the 28th is Friday or whatever. Anyways, so I'm not gonna have much time to mess around, and I might miss out on this update quite a bit, which kind of blows, but you know, that's how it goes. Anyways, another thing that I'd like to propose is that this map that I've made is going to be centered around jets like that. Now, Gaijin, again, for both tanks and planes, has maps for top tier aircraft and tanks that do not work for these vehicles. Again, Malta comes to mind. So Spain might be the best you're going to get. Boulogne-sur-Mer, which was the English Channel map, might have to get popped back into rotation. Maps like Malta are going to have to get knocked out of battle rating 10 plus matchmaking. So I think it's time that Gaijin really starts to take a look at metas depending on battle ratings, because we've gone from interwar period all the way up to 2000s vehicles in tanks, especially in aircraft. We're really close to that. That's a big issue that has to be solved. It's the same thing with tanks, like the recent Heat FS changes, which I'm still annoyed with, and I have another little conspiracy here that everyone will enjoy. The small maps, the knife fighting, we're in MBTs. These tanks aren't meant for this. The same thing is going to be for these jets. Radar missiles might not even get used that much, depending on people's maps that they end up having to play on. That's a big worry for me, is how easily they're going to be used. Now, of course, they're going to be easy to dodge. These are semi-active missiles, and you're going to have to commit. So are we going to see people just basically doing what they used to do in arcade and just head on each other? You know, who's going to be the first to pull off, right? Since they're semi-active. There's no popping it and then leaving. You have to keep your radar trained on it. You might be able to offset fly, but radar is kind of touchy at times. You know, environmental factors like ground clutter and stuff will affect that. And I don't know. We'll just have to see, I guess. But they're not going to be super overpowered. I don't see them being incredibly strong for the foreseeable future. Of course, if you're AFK climbing and you get hit with a radar missile, then I mean, kind of ask for it. Planes that don't have RWR are going to get horribly shafted because of how our battle ratings work. So these missiles, they're going to get shoved into the game, whether we like it or not, but we need constructive feedback and criticism for them to understand in the best way possible. Language barrier bullshit, I don't care. According to our statistics, fucking excuses, I don't give a shit. They need to understand that there has to be some big fucking changes after they add radar missiles to aircraft, and then the same thing for tanks. We're with the T-72s being added, it's ridiculous. There is no reason I should be playing on Frozen Pass in a T-90 or, you know, T-72B3, same fucking shit. There's no reason for me to be playing on a map like that in a Russian tank where I have no advantage other than sitting in a little crevice area that someone can just pop over a hill and kill me because I have no gun depression. There's no reason for small maps to exist beyond battle rating 8.790 even. There's no reason for those maps to be at a rotation. The battle rating 8.0 needs to be the cutoff area for certain maps in War Thunder. Urban maps are a different story, but the small, slightly openish maps like Frozen Pass and stuff, those maps need to be gone. Fields of Poland is alright. Normal Poland, maybe not so much. It's kind of ridiculous, you know, maps like that. Fulda is a map that comes to mind that should be in rotation more. There needs to be certain things that World of Tanks has done, and so has World of Warships. There are maps that are specifically designed for certain battle ratings and tiers that need to be there. There shouldn't be small maps for really high tier vehicles, both air and ground. It's just ridiculous. And honest to God, I'm sick of ground battles right now, especially after the Heat FS change, because it's ruined a lot of vehicles I was just acquiring and grinding through. And it's just made the game overall unplayable for everybody. Everybody's toxic. Everybody hates it. It's the middle of an event. They had to do that during the middle of an event. They're rushing things. It's driving everyone crazy, and it's starting to get really annoying. But I have a theory. I have a slight little theory here. So we have Operation Summer. You have the C2 Nexus as a ground vehicle as a reward. Has a lot of chemical protection. So a lot of people were saying, maybe this is the heat change is a change to make the Nexus look more appealing. Well, afterwards we hear that we got 2 new T-72s coming, and the T-72 B3, albeit not having its armor fully modeled on their dev stream, is going to have soft ERA over hard ERA. So they're going to have contact 1 over contact 5. And I know the values were not exactly correct, most likely, but I mean, you think it's weird. And then on top of that, the variable are the volumetric shells. So shells are now their actual size. They're not just a single pixel on the tip of the round, which affects a lot of things, like heavy tanks. There might not be as much shot trapping or turret ring pixel shooting. But speaking of pixel shooting, you know what country requires some of the most pixel shooting? It's Russia, on their driver's hatches and their little cannon breaches, which, by the way, they got a buff. I don't know if anyone remembers this. The cannon breaches on Soviet T-64, T-72, T-80 tanks got a buff to where their cannon breach hitbox was a lot smaller because there was a little bit more armor reinforcing it or something like that. So just want everyone to keep that in mind. Now, the other great part of this, too, is that the driver's hatch area was already one of the smallest pieces to hit. Now you could have a gun barrel in the way of it, and you have a full-size shell trying to penetrate that. We'll see, but I have a feeling that Soviet MBTs are going to be some of the most well-protected tanks in the game because of their already insanely small hitbox. And they don't have something to there's no shot trapping a Soviet MBT. You can shot trap an STR V122B. Your dart round hits the upper front plate really close to the turret ring. It's going to ricochet right up in there and kill crew members, the breach, could possibly even hit the ammo in the back and blow you up. That's happened to me in the 122. The Abrams heat might not squeeze into the turret ring. I don't know. I know that NATO tanks have their turret rings raised, specifically the Abrams comes to mind. So that was always kind of a little bit of a gameplay feature that they added, although they like to say sometimes historical accuracy. We know how that's been going recently. Anyways, so the other part of my theory is that because Soviet MBTs are going to be some of the most hard tanks in the game to penetrate, and that's why they did the heat change. On top of that, what makes it even worse is that they have not changed maps at all for top tier. So the Soviets are going to either get flanked and spanked, or they're going to be sitting and defending, which is how they usually win, and they're going to do very well. As people may have noticed that have been playing top tier, they uncapped the country matchmaking for NATO countries. So all of the NATO countries can be on the same team versus Russia. Italy is no longer hard capped to Germany like they were. They can play with America and Britain. Everyone can play together against the Russians. And in a few of my games, the Russians have actually beat all of NATO, mainly because NATO players, sorry Wereboos, but you like to rage quit a lot. It's kind of annoying. You die after you lose your 2A5, and then you complain that you can't do anything, and then you leave. So, stop that. So the other part of the theory that I was getting off on a tangent there is that because they're adding more Soviet MBTs and they've uncapped the NATO matchmaking, in RB we're going to see a lot more NATO versus Pact. The Chinese are getting more things, that like the Q5. They might even get a new ZTZ. Who knows? They didn't show off everything, obviously. But I have a feeling they're thinking because NATO countries have less MBTs in their trees than the Russians, each individual Russian player has the ability to have more MBTs in their lineup and, more IFVs like light tanks like the BMP-3 and stuff like that. So while the Russian players per player will have more MBTs and stuff to play with, it'll make up for the fact that they're facing all different walks of life when it comes to NATO MBTs. They're facing, you know, Abrams, Leopards, Ariete, Leclerc, Type 90, Challenger. You know, they're going to be facing every single NATO nation. So I think that the Russians are always going to be on top for MBT count in their tech trees now than they may ever be because of that reason. I think that's going to be a major component to how we see top tier tanks go on. And like I said, maps are going to have to change because everyone running around with heat is going to be really dumb. I personally would like to see, if we're going to keep getting small maps, I would like to see the Tusk upgrade for the M1A1 or possibly an FEP upgrade, some form of upgrade for the M1A1, and a possible theorized SEP upgrade for the M1A2. Because for some reason they decided to remove the Gen 2, 3, whatever thermal it was for the M1A2 for both, for all driver, gunner, and commander, and just give it Gen 1 commander and gunners thermals. It has worse thermals than the BMP3, the BMP2M, and will have, and if they don't change it, will have worse thermals than the T-72B3, which is kind of insane that they have to have 2000s Soviet MBT technology facing 1980s and 90s NATO technology in order to keep it somewhat fair, because the 2A5, the 122B get their commander's thermal as Gen 2 and their gunners as Gen 1, which is alright because, you know, you can use the commander's thermal. We're getting laser warning systems too, which is insane. Germany's going to be stomping at 9.0 with a Mexis, another TAM, a Radkampfwagen, an L44 Leopard if you have it. It's going to be pretty crazy. So things are going to get a little spicy. America's not on top at all right now. People may say, well, you have 4 Abrams, but you can't fucking bullshit me. They've got a T-72B at 9.7 simply because it doesn't have thermal, and you have to pixel shoot the driver's hatch with it. The first Abrams, which did not get MA33, is still sitting at 10.0 instead of 9.7 for the dumbest fucking reason. So it's time to start looking at the American tree, because I have a feeling if Germany doesn't get a 2A6 or France doesn't get another Leclerc, NATO's going to get stomped in the ground by the insane amount of T-72s and T-80s and T-64s that are going to be rolling in people's lineups. So again, sorry for the rambling, but those are just my spaghetti thoughts. They're all over the place. You know, that's just how it goes with me. I like to ramble on. Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed this long video. I'm Steel Wolf, and I'll see you all next time.